Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
All right, please note that the language and ideas presented on the show might not be suitable for everyone. If you're under 18, make sure your mom isn't around. If you're over 80, why is your mom around?
You're listening to Cyrus Says.
On Cyrus Says, Saumya Roy is going to tell us about her personal story of hope, which is to help people one at a time get their lives back. And we're talking about farmers and much more.
Why follow your auntie's advice when you can follow Cyrus Says on Facebook and Twitter to stay updated about the latest shows?
Okay, here on Cyrus Says, personal experience that has scarred me. Happened last week. A gentleman on a motorbike, I'll give you the number, 870127884. He basically stopped just in front of my car and threw a popcorn packet. I thought it was popcorn. It could have been chips, could have been anything. Plastic paper right on the in the middle of the street here in Malva Hill where the poor live, as you know. So I stopped the car and I spoke to him. We are from the land of Gandhi and I decided I have to be passive and win people over. So instead of being aggressive, I said, Sir, aap kya kar rahe hain? Ye mat karo. And I tried to explain to him what are the good and bad points of what he has done. And of course, he looked at me and answered in that one way that all Indians answer when they do something wrong. To kya hua? Let's understand the ramification of these words. To kya hua means, so what? What's the big deal? It's unbelievable. So I did the other thing. I abandoned my Gandhian principles. I ran over his foot. Ladies and gentlemen, it's called Cyrus Says.
And that's what Cyrus Says.
Okay, on Cyrus Says, we are joined by, now let's understand that we have a whole gamut of different guests coming. We have acrobats at some point. We have people who are mentally and physically not at the best health at the point at which they enter the show. We've got celebrities of sorts, people who don't pay taxes. But we also have people who do sterling work to help society, and which is amazing because I think many of these people are not celebrated enough. So without sounding like a goody two-shoes, which I actually am, let me just introduce Saumya Roy. Saumya, I've done your research, I've done the biodata, I've just gone through everything about your life, and I'll summarize the entire life in just about 4 lines. You are the co-founder and CEO of Vandana Foundation. If I'm saying anything wrong, please put your hand up and scream no. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, yes. That's the first word and perhaps the last word we'll hear from Saumya on this show. And you've worked in the slums of Mumbai, and which of course is 80% of Mumbai. My house is like a slum if you come and look at it. And the drought-affected areas of Vidarbha. And before I just get into the whole thing, I think we're so used to drought that we become insensitive now, urban Indians. You know, we read about it every day. I hate to say this, but I just feel it's true. We were discussing it. We do this show on TV as well. We're discussing it. Marathwada region, this and the other. After some time, it's just every day. And it doesn't, it's like, it just doesn't seem to, touch your heart or hit you at all. But every day people are dying. Yeah. So let's start there.
Funnily enough, it's relentless even in the villages because, like you, I'm a city dweller and I started going to these villages like, let's say, a decade ago. And I also went in thinking, oh my God, it's some unusual occurrence. But when I went there, it's also relentless for them and it's so brutal for them because they would describe year after year, and in Marathi they would say Ola Dushkal, which means a so-called wet drought. And
what is a wet drought?
Meaning too much rain or too little rain.
God, we forgot about that side of it.
Yeah, which is equally
it's
bad.
Like God is the ultimate comedian. He's just screwing with you.
Exactly. So they could tell you year after year after year of like too much rain or too little rain, too much rain or too little rain, and it's never just right, so they can get their crop right.
What the hell, yaar? But what are we going to do? When are we going to be able to control weather? We've come so far. We've landed on the moon. We've got the computer age, the digital age upon us. We can, change the cars will not have drivers anymore, I'm told, in the next 5 years. Yeah. Why can't we control the weather? Why can't I press a button and more rain come?
So you do know that we've tried that, right?
We have?
Yeah, as a journalist.
Are you talking about the guy on the 4th floor who pees on the guy on the 3rd floor? Because that's totally different experience.
So yeah, but apart from that, as a journalist, I've also been on one of those little flights that Maharashtra had an experiment of cloud seeding.
Okay, you now please talk to me like I'm 7 years old, which I am. Huh?
Yeah, so
what is cloud seeding?
When you said, can we control the weather? So the government actually tried to control the weather in one of these droughts, or maybe many of these droughts, wherein someone would go up on a little flight and like sprinkle some sort of chemical on all these clouds that look so white.
You're joking.
No, I swear. We've spent crores of rupees on this.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Who came up with the theory that if you throw some chemicals on a cloud, rain will start?
Yes, it's called cloud seeding.
But so it's there. Is that a scientific fact?
Apparently it is.
So what happened? We threw the wrong chemicals. crowds were on strike.
Well, maybe it rained somewhere, but we didn't see it.
Oh, good point. Good point. So it does work. We just could control the direction of the rain.
Yeah.
So somewhere in Nepal, people were enjoying it while we were suffering.
No. We were sprinkling it over just the right places, presumably. Those who paid for it got it, and those who couldn't didn't, or some such
so there's a caste system in this as well.
Probably.
Weather control also. We're never going to escape Manu's laws, it looks like.
Yeah.
So, but what you're saying is actually true, is it?
Yeah.
That they actually spend money, they send somebody up into a plane, and they sprayed chemicals. Is this done elsewhere in the world?
Yes, it is.
And successfully?
I don't know how successful it is on a large scale, but it definitely is done even in the US.
God. So if you want to join the Vandana Foundation, people out there, remember, get your own plane, because that's one of the things you need to do to help with this situation. We're making fun, or rather we're being light about it. But I want to go back and just talk a little bit about yourself. You keep mentioning journalists, and I have here the list of publications you've worked with. Forbes India, only discussing the rich people of India. Mint, again, all about finance. Wall Street, all about finance. And Outlook, which is a sort of general magazine, but also very business oriented as well. So what is your background?
I always grew up wanting to be a journalist. I was the editor of my school magazine, so it goes back quite far. I never thought I would do something like this. But even as a financial journalist, I started to write about financial inclusion, which sounds like a big word, but what it basically means is that if you live, I think many people know this, that if you say you live in Malabar Hill as you do, Cyrus, you'll get pizza in half an hour.
No. I live with my parents. I'm poor. I don't have money to live on my own, so I have to stay with my parents. Please don't say Malabar Hill and it sounds like the person is rich. Yeah. We are 50 people living. We are like farmers ourselves in a certain way, I dare say.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a struggle.
So, but if you were to say, let's say somebody calls you and you say that you live in Dharavi, they'll say, oh, sorry, but we can't give you a credit card, or oh, sorry, we can't deliver pizza.
Geographical racism.
Yes. No, geographical in the sense it's obviously economic, because if you live in a slum, they'll say, hey, we can't find your house and we can't give you a bank account, we can't give you a
Let me
credit
tell you,
card.
these pizza guys can't find my house in Malabar Hill. This is a good point to just segue for a minute and tell them, please look properly. Go ahead. So what you're saying is, sorry?
So I started writing increasingly about financial inclusion, the lack of really financial.
This is about disparity in the way our society is. There's not much you can do in 5 minutes about that, because it's so difficult. Hundreds of years of keeping people segregated, of keeping the classes, or the kind of gap that we have to catch up. A watchman's son to catch up with, say, a businessman's son. It's not going to happen in one generation. It's very unlikely.
Yeah, so when you said it won't happen in a minute, I have spent 6 years over it now. So that's how I really switched from journalism to, starting my own foundation and,
But Saumya, what I can understand is that you're a financial analyst of sorts. You're looking at businesses, society, of course, disparity and all that. But where did the social side come into it? Where did you suddenly say, what the hell? I'm not interested in the rich people in Malabar Hill. I'm more interested in why there's inequity in this whole society in Maharashtra and elsewhere in India.
Yes. So I used to write a lot about development, and I remember, as in Outlook, as you know, it's a general interest magazine, and you get sent to like all kinds of places from like a Bollywood set.
Who was the editor? Vinod?
Vinod was the editor.
Was he good?
He was amazing.
Amazing guy, no? I've met him only once, yeah.
No, amazing. And the page that Vinod dealt with himself was the last page, which was all about celebrities and pictures.
Lazy man. After all the good writing, he took the celebrities in the last page. Yeah. Kalki Kolchin or whatever launches new play.
Yeah, exactly. So one time they sent me out to Vidarbha, and of course I did write on development, but they sent me out to Vidarbha, and
so they sent you to Vidarbha to see the dynamic side of it and write about development and the new financial.
To write about farmer suicides. Actually.
Oh, they sent you for farmer suicides.
Yeah, to write about farmer suicides. And I remember going out to this family where two brothers had committed suicide. They were both graduates, which is unusual in a village. And
but weren't you scared to go and interview people with tragedy like that? What would you say to anybody like that?
Yeah. So I was dreading it. And in that house, there were both their wives who were under 30 years old, like about 26 and 24 or something, each of whom had 2 children under 8 years old, and they had their aging in-laws. Okay, and the 2 of them would walk like 10 kilometers in that Vidarbha sun looking for work every day. And I asked them, what keeps you going? Because those 2 are gone. You could see the hope gone out of their eyes, and I'd say, well, what keeps you going? Why do you do this? And then they pointed to their children, and they said that for them, we walk, we do this every single day. We make papad, we go out and stand in the sun looking for agricultural labor. And that was the day that I realized what mothers will not do for their children.
And what happens to the farm? All the farming that's gone with the sons. Nobody looks after that.
No. They do have a farm. They do farming, but farming is not viable. Even just to sow every year, they have to take a loan to buy seeds and sow every year. So they do keep it going. but they have to do something else as well. So they might be doing 2 things, they might be doing 3 things just to feed their kids. And that was the day I thought, okay, well, if I have some money at some point, I would like to do something about this. And that's how this really started.
Oh God! So you're suddenly in the middle of the vortex of all this, actually seeing the tragedy up close, and then you realize. But let's go back to this whole farmer suicide phrase. Again, it's something which is just now. It's almost like talking cricket or something. It's just like a normal thing in our life. It's so sad to actually say that because it's an everyday occurrence or every season occurrence. How long has this been going on? This farmer performance or rather farm performance being below par, hence people unable to deal with it. And is it only India? Is this a phenomenon of India, or is it everywhere in the world that where agrarian economies sort of dip, the people start going a little berserk?
I think the agrarian crisis in India is not new. It's been going on for a long time, and sometimes we talk about, people ask me like, why do farmers commit suicide? Like it's some massive $1 million question, and I always say that farmers commit suicide because they have a sense of shame, and sometimes
shame in not being able to get the money.
Yeah, if you've taken a loan from someone, they have a sense that okay, we really need to repay this, and if we can't, then that's not good.
They
but
almost don't sound like Indians.
Exactly.
Where we just take loans and don't even think about it. Kya loan? Kiska loan?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, so we can continue to have our parties and weddings and all of that while owing people money, and farmers have...
You're not pointing at me particularly, no?
I'm talking about some other people we read about.
My neighbors. All my neighbors, each and every one of them.
Exactly. But
so we don't have a sense of shame, but in rural India there's a much stronger sense of honor and shame and paying off your debt. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. So if you have like someone coming to your house every day asking you for money, you have nothing to give them.
We hide. Bolo ghar mein nahi hai. And for Bollywood they say madam is having bath.
Yeah.
Nobody has bathed more than Bollywood actresses. Try calling them up for anything, especially loans, and let me tell you, many of them live beyond their means.
Yeah.
Now we'll segue there for a second. Let me tell you about our world, Saumya.
Yeah.
It's very strange because people think everyone's successful in Bollywood and television and all that, but lots of people don't have work for months at a time. So how do they manage? So they live beyond their means. They have credit cards which they can't pay. I won't get into the young girl who committed suicide recently, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's all beyond their capacity and their control, and they show that everything is fine. So let's look at the two worlds, how different they are. Here we show everything is fine, and until the bubble bursts, and it's the reverse because you have no idea what's going on with the person. There you can just see the person disintegrate before your eyes because the moment they can't pay, they can't take it anymore. Is that it?
That's it. So the kind of people that you're talking about, you almost have to spend more to cover up the fact that you don't have money and that people think that you're doing fine and that's how you're going to get business.
Yeah.
But there's this great sense of shame that if I want to educate my child, I have no money, or I want to get my child married and I have no money, and somebody's coming to my house asking me for money every day, I'm caught in this bind.
Don't they think about the kids and the grandkids to be and the elder people in there? See, they're responsible for everybody. Don't they also think of that side? Agar main suicide karega, to what will happen to the rest? The thought doesn't go that way?
They do think about it, but there is a sense of hopelessness. Like they do, I'm guessing that they don't see how they can break out of this. So there are even farmers, like we say, oh, why do farmers commit suicide? There are farmers who've written letters to the president saying why farming is unviable, why they feel that they just cannot get out of this, why they have this sense of hopelessness, and that's why they're taking this drastic step. And I'm not justifying saying they're doing the right thing, but I'm just trying to understand.
Going back in time, we've had many different governments, state governments and central governments. Has there been any improvement? Has there been any hope for the farmers where you think that the government is actually working in the right direction? Okay, this is a tough question. I know that you work closely with everyone, but let's be honest here.
Yeah. So I would not say that efforts have not been made. There have been.
They don't reach them.
Some do, but they don't totally. Some of them are like a comedy of errors, if you were to ask them. Some definitely, when we do see some having gotten money, having gotten different resources, etc. But some of them are like, when you asked me this, some of them are like a comedy of errors, that at one point there was a government scheme for distributing goats. And...
Sorry, that sounded funny. Just for a second, I'm just thinking, government thinks, abhi kya kare? Theek hai, everybody should have one goat.
Yeah. So by the time, maybe say 10 were sent, the ones that were actually distributed were 4. And then most of them were male. So then they didn't end up having any kids, and then they just...
Not to mention milk. Yeah.
Exactly. So
when you say 10 becomes 4, who's responsible? Is it corruption, or is it just inefficiency, or is it both, or who knows?
Both.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, there's an insensitivity towards everything.
Yeah.
Because you think of this whole farmer quandary and problem, and you're thinking if you're in a position of power, you should make sure that it goes all the way down the line, reaches them, and their life becomes better. At least there's some hope is sent to them, so people feel there's a chance, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But that's never going to happen?
I wouldn't say so. We do see farmers, we do see some success stories, those of whom, I feel... Those of whom who are like at least planting food that they can eat.
Are they averse to modernization? Is that a problem?
No, they don't have any money for modernization.
So they're ready to try different techniques to get with the 21st century, to use the chemicals and fertilizers that they need to. I don't even know. So
actually it's the opposite, because there's probably too much fertilizer and pesticide being used. There is BT cotton being used, and at least in Vidarbha, where BT cotton has not really worked to the extent that we would have liked it to work, because of which there is a rollback of BT cotton. So I would actually feel that they have lost some of their traditional practices, wherein they would at least plant some food crops. So if you can't sell cotton, you at least have some food to eat. Whereas if you're totally on a cash economy, like you're selling cotton to get money and buy food, then if you don't have a good crop, you don't have anything to eat and nothing to feed your children.
Okay, let's look more positively for a second before people listening to the show start thinking, God, my life is equally bad. And, I don't want people to go to a negative, because we don't serve alcohol on this show, unfortunately. So we can't help them. But let's talk about what you're doing. So now you've seen this firsthand. You've got a shock, obviously, because your lovely world in Mumbai and whatever. And then you suddenly see this other world open up and you're feeling, you're just feeling that you can't deal with it. You need to help these people. So what does the foundation do? Because the government failed. I don't want to put you down, but what the hell can you do?
So when we went, we started I had no idea. I'm a journalist. My dad was in the government, but clearly reformed, so to speak.
Okay. We'll come to him.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly mention that A.M. Roy is your dad, and of course headed the Mumbai police, and which is a very glamorous job in many ways. But like you said, so he represents the government, plus he's seen the shortcomings of the government.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you.
So we both of us had no background in this. As you said, what can you do? And we also went there not knowing what we can do, but we knew that we wanted to keep going there and just, meeting people. So there was months and months of deadlock wherein we would go and visit people. We would take the collector's list of farmer suicides, go out and meet every single woman in that beating sun and say, well, what would you like to do? And she would say, I don't know what I can do. And then we would encourage her, saying, well, whatever you want to do, we can support you. And she would say, well, I can't think of what I can do, because you can imagine, she has no food to eat. She's not thinking of what business she can set up and modernization and whatever. But after months and months, we had some women who said, well, I have to do something for my children. So, fund me and I'll start something. And then suddenly in 6 months, that deadlock kind of broke, and they started doing everything from selling bangles. They would ride cycles, they would walk kilometers and sell bangles, they would sell saris, they would sell what they call stationery, but there is no stationery because it's outside a school or a college. So it's everything that college kids would buy, which is basically nail paint, lipstick, jewelry.
And
everything.
Maybe a pen.
Yeah, maybe a pen.
Once in a while, Friday evening or something.
Exactly.
One pen or pencil.
Exactly.
Okay, so do you help them decide all this? Did you do research and say, okay, this is what they can do, this is what their capacity is, this is what we can train them? Is that your contribution, or did they actually have their own ideas?
So both. We had, first of all, when there was this deadlock and they felt that they couldn't do anything, we had a lot of motivational workshops. So we had this guy who would come like a trainer and he would say, well, why can't you do anything? And they would say, or whatever their fears were. Like if you are a widow, they would say things like, oh my God, what will people say? I'm sitting on the street and selling something. So he would tell them things like, have you heard of this Bollywood song, Kuch to log kahenge, logo ka kaam hai kehna. And they would say, oh yeah, we've heard that song. And he would say, so then don't care about what people say. You're out there to fend for your children and your family. So just don't care about unka to kaam hai kehna, wo to kahenge. But you have to go ahead and do what you want to do. So just bring that positive.
Looks like shame and the societal shame is a big issue in this area. Huh? I'm just thinking, we don't really care what people say back in the urban part of the world.
But they would have to hear all kinds of things. And so that just kind of brought a degree of positivity. We would throw out a few ideas. What can they do? What can they not do?
And sorry to interrupt, these are young widows very often?
Yeah, we have a widow who we first met when she was 21 and she had 2 young children.
My God.
So it's typically from like 21 to like say their early 40s.
So tell us a positive story. Is there a nice story about someone who sort of put their life together, maybe married again? I don't know, because they're just 21. Why should their life end?
No, we haven't really had anyone marry again, because we typically, they have children and all of that, and they feel very responsible for their children. But we have had women who are just doing so incredibly well. Once they start, they never stop. Like we had a woman who worked throughout surgery that was like suspected cancer. In the end, it was not, but she had 3 surgeries, but she never stopped working for a single day. This is a woman who had she sells bangles. She started to sell glass bangles, and she would walk 10 to 12 kilometers every day. And being a widow, she's a specialist in wedding orders. So if there's a wedding in somebody's house, they call her and she will like give everyone bangles.
Saumya, I think that's a great idea. I was thinking about this. Wedding is that's a great idea. Can I share this idea? Because I think across India, weddings is always a good market.
Exactly.
Because if you talk to people who work for you or who on a monetary scale are little, not earning as much as you, they still want to spend more money than they have when it comes to weddings.
Yeah.
Weddings of their son, daughter, whatever. So I'm saying that if they can get into the business where they're selling things for weddings, they'll do really well. Because in any part of our society, everybody's going to spend money.
Yeah.
Good.
Exactly. So that's how she started. And
We've solved it. We've solved the farmer crisis, Saumya. We've done it. Music, please. Okay, back to reality. I'm just kidding. We haven't solved anything. You're almost smiling. Yeah. Sorry. So this lady with the bangles, does her life get better in the sense that the kids then go to school? Do they have food to eat? Do they have a better lifestyle? Does it actually get better in that sense? Materially?
Yes, it does. So, I mean, it's always a step forward and a step back, and they don't have any sort of ability to absorb any shock. So if they're sick or their child is sick or whatever. But this woman actually funded her daughter to go through teacher training. Her daughter's a teacher now. She earns up to 2,000 rupees a day.
Wow.
You can see that she's healthier. We have one woman whose son actually has become an engineer this month. So she funded his engineering education.
And she's brought up this is after the suicide and the son has been brought up by her alone.
Yes.
And is an engineer now.
Yeah.
So there are good stories also coming out. I think, the press should highlight some of these stories. I think with the farmer suicide, I think the whole issue is also people turn their back on it because they think, okay, we can't help this situation. Let's pretend it's not there. Let's pretend, it doesn't exist in our world. So sometimes I feel maybe more positive stories would help.
There are so many positive stories because when I look at them, I feel like, oh my God, I am such a softie. I would never be able to do what they can do. And they will stop at nothing.
Ma Shakti.
Yes.
It's that woman power. I really believe the female is much more powerful internally when it comes to energy and just the idea of putting things together. They're much more ferocious.
I agree. And when they have children, they will just stop at nothing.
That's why we never had children. I mean, the men. I mean, we have children. You know what I'm saying? Biologically, we have children, but we can't give birth to children. Because God decided the stronger one is the woman, and that's how it is. My theory is God is a woman and not a man. I don't want to start any war here, but this is my theory.
Both.
We are sitting on the talak fence at the moment with that issue in the background also, keep in mind. But I do feel that the female energy is much more and the drive is much more. Look at the tragedy here, the double tragedy here is that after committing suicide, if the wife, the widow, then puts her life together with the child or children and the elders, cut to 5-10 years later, what a tragedy, what a waste of a human life if he had just stuck, at it. Things may have changed.
Yeah, and some of them have repaid their husband's debt. He left them with debt. And the woman has repaid that debt.
Wow.
This woman was a glass bangle seller. Her husband tried to commit suicide 3 times. And he finally succeeded the 3rd time. And he ran up medical bills all 3 times. So she repaid all of that.
My God, but after the first time, they couldn't sort of reform him or help him?
Clearly not.
God. And the trend is continuing, but the males are taking their lives because they can't deal with the issue is continuing. It's not like we've come to a point where it's become less or something.
No.
It all depends on the season and how well things are going.
Yes.
Right? Can you just, before we go into the break, can you just take us to the last few years and tell us in Marathwada and the area you're in, Vidarbha, how bad is it, honestly? If you look at the last decade, what we're sitting on right now.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it, every year, like we are now entering sowing season, they just cannot sow and can't even start the agricultural cycle unless they take a loan. And it's wealthy farmers and it's poor farmers. Even wealthy farmers need to take, it's just the quantum of the loan. Maybe the wealthier ones may take a few lakhs, but then the poorer ones may just take 10,000 or 20,000. And imagine giving up your life for 20,000.
Can I take the other side for a second? Because again, for people who don't know much about this whole farming industry, we always feel they've been given too much in a sense. We always hear about loans being waived. We always hear about they can get implements at cheaper rate. We always all kinds of schemes from the government. At least Muboli schemes are there. Whether they actually reach them, I don't know. But there seems to be lots of SOPs and schemes available for farmers in the farming industry. So is that fair? Is that correct?
I would say that there are government schemes are very rural focused, and I work in the slums of Bombay as well. So yes, I do see that. I feel that poverty in cities is just so degrading in a way. Probably poverty in rural areas is not. Like there are government schemes to build toilets in homes, and in Bombay you see people defecating on the street, and you don't see that in a village.
Because we can't waste space on toilets, Saumya. When there are 18 people living in one room, how can you waste space on toilets? Just use the outside. The world is a toilet.
But equally, I see that for farms, not all schemes have worked very well. Like you just said, free electricity. Yes, electricity is free, but it's not available. So it's available often only at night. And so farmers will go out in their farm in the middle of the night and get electrocuted. We've had farmers who've died because of electrocution. Because
Are you serious?
Yeah. We have had farmers who died of electrocution because they need to go out in the night to put on the water pump because the power comes on only at night.
Are they told about all these things? I mean,
you could be told.
This is their land. Don't they know the rules?
You could be told anything, but it's just pitch dark. What are you going to do? We've had farmers who've, say, gone out at night to put on the water pump and fallen into the well or the pond.
Now, whose fault is this? This is too much information. So is this the government's fault? I mean, at the end of the day, you can't hold your hand throughout 24 hours a day. So what is the problem? They need more infrastructure. That's basically the problem.
I think we need to think in terms of just how to make every farm viable. And it has to be, as I said, one of the solutions I see is that it shouldn't just be cash crops that you sell for the market like cotton and soybean. It has to also be food crops, traditional crops like jawar, bajra, etc.
Food crops for themselves, you're saying?
For themselves to eat so that they at least have food security. So they're not like desperate and hungry even if their crop has not come out so well. I think we need to look at more localized solutions for water like check dams, bunds, etc. rather than just that water pump that is causing water tables to go down. So then in fact...
And obviously the role of electricity, so that they can see what they're doing, maybe solar paneled or whatever the right thing is. But I will take a quick break and then come back. Lots to talk about now. I want to ask you honestly what you think of the government's position, whether we're doing enough. And then I want to also talk about some lighter things so that you and I both can relax, because by nature I'm an escapist and I run away from tragedy. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't even know my wedding anniversary. I've just ignored it for the last 15 years. All right, Saumya is with us. She's trying to save the farms of India, one farm at a time, or rather one farmer's family at a time. And she has some lovely stories to tell. In all this misery, there is hope. We'll come back.
Did you know that some termites in Africa have a pleasantly minty flavor?
Did you know that India's largest music festival was in a way conceptualized in Estonia?
Did you know that the awesomest chips in the world are found only inside US prisons?
Hello, I'm Chuck.
I'm Sriket.
And I'm Naren.
And together we are
Simplified,
a podcast that helps you appear smarter to an audience that knows no different.
Or give you some stuff to talk about at parties.
We are ultra-crepidarians.
And if you don't know what that means,
then tune into Simplified with a B on iTunes, Audio Boom, or your favorite podcasting app. Episodes out every fortnight.
All right, back here with Saumya Roy. I want to talk about her illustrious father. Of course, I actually met him a couple of times, and then we'll plunge right back into the farmer issue. Mr. Roy, Commissioner Roy, actually. I do remember we did a couple of events, one for the police, and we had to anchor a show, etc. So we met him in the back room. Actually, a couple of talks after that as well. And he was a poet. He liked poetry as well, and he was spouting poetry once, Urdu poetry, and very well, in fact. And I was quite surprised, because you don't see this side. You see the side of a hard-hitting leader of police dealing with criminals and underbelly of India and all that. And then the other side. It's so interesting to see other sides to people, because we have stereotypes in our mind. Tell us a little bit about your father.
Yeah, so I think poetry only you've heard. I've definitely not heard him spout poetry. But yes, I think having 2 daughters and living in a woman-dominated household makes you a much softer cop than you would otherwise be. He always says that, I live in a woman-dominated household and all of that. But yes, I always avoided having... When your dad is a cop, you always avoid having a professional association with him.
Why? Was it fun growing up? Your dad's like a top cop, and I'm sure the other kids were quite excited. Did you ever behave badly on the roads and
Never.
break a signal and call the cop and say, Mr. Roy ka beti, please
No,
go.
I always had visions that if I ever broke a signal, it would be in the newspaper tomorrow. Commissioner's daughter breaks the signal.
That's today. That for sure. For sure, somebody with their cell phone trapping you like that. Yeah.
So I always had these visions that, oh my God, next thing I'm going to be in the new, on one of those stickers on TV, cop's daughter caught drunk, or whatever.
Oh my God.
It is.
Did it ever happen?
No, it never happened.
Uh-huh.
Because I had this mortal fear that if I ever did anything and was caught, even pulled over by a cop, it would just, go be in the Mumbai Mirror tomorrow or some such thing.
But when you went back home, he was a different guy altogether. It was not like this fellow who was marshalling forces and shouting at people and getting people order and law and order put back into society. So how was he at home? Just like a regular father who was bullied by the daughters?
Yeah, no, he was not a regular father in that he was the most indulgent father I have ever seen. There is nothing my dad has not done for us, including feed us and whatever it is, we go shopping with us.
What are you saying?
Yes.
To buy women's products and clothes and all that?
Clothes, yeah.
That's another side to the police commissioner. Be very careful, yes. I like that dress, Betty. That looks good.
And, my sister's a lawyer, I'm a journalist, he's a cop. So you can imagine, like, dinner table conversations in our house are really heated, explosive.
Ordner of the early years.
Exactly.
I can see the panel forming.
Exactly. So that's probably where this genesis of our work really came from, because we would talk about these things and we would really get all...
But this philanthropic side was also there to him.
Very much.
From the beginning.
In fact, I think it came from him, because as a journalist, I wanted to do something, but I didn't really think that I would leave my job, leave my profession and do this. But when he retired in 2010, he was very clear, I don't want a government job, I no more want a lal batti ki gaadi, I don't want a corporate job, I want to do this. From the very second day, he started going to Dharavi and walking around, and I said, okay.
So initially it was slums, was it? Because he was exposed to them, obviously, being in Mumbai all these years.
Yes.
And it's amazing, we live side by side. Foreigners come and tell us all the time. I don't know if it's funny or it's poetic or what it is, I can't explain, but it is odd that we live and you have a nightclub right next to a slum, and these super rich people in there, Prada and Prado or whatever the damn names are, go into this one thing, and this guy who's earning so much less and lifestyle is so different, is just 5 meters away.
Yeah.
And I think for foreigners, when they see it, they're really amazed that this can coexist in the same space.
And we've learned to live like that. I feel like...
We're just blinkers. We are blinkers society, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I too have no sensitivity left for anyone. I have to keep poking myself to feel bad. It's really sad. Maybe it's a lot of fat. I don't know, Saumya. I can't explain it. But coming back to your dad. So he was a philanthropic person from the beginning. You could see that side to him. The social injustices that he was looking at. He realized even being commissioner, he could not right so many wrongs. So that obviously played a part in you as well. And the slums was the first catalyst, is it? Is there some story there? Did you see some actual incident which turned your mind?
So I throw my writing, yes, but I think he actually, when he was the commissioner in Pune and in Bombay, he had started a community policing initiative called Jhoparpatti Police Panchayat.
That sounds, may I laugh? Just sounds funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing was that cops would never go into slums even if there was anything, because they felt like, hey, who really, there's so many things happening all over the city. They wouldn't really go there. And so it was a community policing initiative.
Even crime has to have some glamour. Let's be honest. If the guy doesn't dress like a criminal, there's no point going and just attacking a fellow in a banyan and underwear.
Exactly.
Fair enough, yeah.
So it was, the panchayat consisted of women from the community and the police representative, and together they would solve all kinds of, community-related problems, communal problems, all of that. And it really worked so well that he was very clear that when I retire, this is what I want to do. And we thought, okay, we were not sure how serious he was, but the very day after he retired, he started getting one of these women from the police panchayat to walk him around Dharavi, around Govandi, around Mankurd, and eating in their houses and walking around there. And then that's when
he had a Rahul Gandhi moment.
Exactly.
He would go and sit in the house to get the feel of what's happening and all.
Yeah.
And did they like him? Because I normally thought they were averse to police, and that to top bracket police, they will think that they have their own way of dealing, the brutality that they perhaps thought they would encounter.
So funnily enough, now we get about 8 to 10,000 people who take loans from us. He or I meet every single one of them. And now he has this, it's like he's reborn, because most people don't know who he was at all.
But Saumya, isn't the loan the whole issue? That if you are giving loans, replacing whoever else was giving loans, the whole idea of them not being able to repay loans, isn't that going to be a problem again?
No, it's not, because we give an interest-free loan. We just take a service charge for the doorstep service that we provide.
Could I avail of this loan? My issues are a little different, but
5,000 will be nothing for you, Cyrus. It'll just buy you a few beers.
Two young kids. Have you seen them eat? Urban children, their mouths don't stop moving.
It'll buy them a meal, one single meal.
One meal is all they deserve. They've been given too many. No, so coming back to you.
So they just think he's some uncle, somebody. And
they don't know about his background.
So many people don't know who he is. They just love him to death, but they have no idea who he is.
They just think he's a guy who likes to help.
Yeah.
And don't know about any...
Yeah.
Okay.
They come and tell him about all their problems in life, their husband, their children, all kinds of things. You should come and see our office sometime. And they'll be chatting with him, talking with him. So
he's playing agony aunt also.
Absolutely.
He's literally being a guy who you can hang out with and chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have no idea who he was. That he had this fancy plush office in Bombay. He was on a swivel chair and had 4 or 5 cops around him. They have no idea.
And do his cop friends and all the people, the influential people that he's met in his career, does he use those contacts also? Do they also come to the party, or they go back to their life?
They go back to their life, but we do have some of them coming over, and he gets so involved in some of their lives. He will, if they need something, he'll call up his friends and say, can you help so and so, she needs this, or can you help so and so, she needs that. Like the smallest of things, my son needs a job, or this one needs this, he will call up.
Son needs a job, not the smallest of things. Every day people ask me, and I tell them I don't have a job myself. That's the only thing I can say. It's a huge thing in India, let's face it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now, in a way, I'm almost getting a sense here that he's doing more than he could as a policeman, in a sense, because he's actually helping people with their lives in a much bigger way now.
I don't know about that, but what I can tell you is he's having the time of his life. He's enjoying it so much. He's never gone into a government office since he left, and it's been 6 years exactly. He's never gone back to a government office.
Wait till he needs a passport.
Yeah.
Wait till he needs a passport, everything will change. He may have been commissioner, but they'll still make you wait. No, but tell me one thing, what is the difference between the slum issues, subculture of the slum, vis-a-vis the subculture of the farms and the interiors? So what are the issues of the slum guys? Because we live next to them, and I actually don't know what their lives are like.
So, I work in both areas. Sometimes I really feel that poverty in slums is just so degrading. You literally have to wait for the middle of the night to even go and pee if you're a woman.
Oh God. What if you I pee 3 times now in the night?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
So many women are sick because they can't go out and pee.
Oh Christ, really?
Yeah.
Why do they have to wait? Because the thing is occupied?
Well, either there are too few toilets. Those that are there sometimes are just blocked and dirty and filthy, full of men. You don't want to go there. And
full of men, you got me. I'm not going. Huh.
So one of the areas that we work in is the garbage dump of Bombay, and I've actually...
One second, are you saying Bombay is a garbage dump, or you're saying the garbage dump of Bombay?
Of Bombay.
Okay, all right.
But it is a township in itself.
Right, it is.
So
we're not even being funny. It's actually true.
No, it is really. I've walked all over the garbage dump of Bombay. It's about 300 acres.
What are you saying? That big?
That big. You just see rolling hills of garbage that we sent out there. It's high rises of garbage and
wow.
It's
so you suddenly find Lokanwala stamp there, and new Pawai coming up here.
Exactly. And we have people, there is very little to no sorting or composting of garbage that happens. So people just sort it with their bare hands, and they've done it for 40 years and 50 years.
What do you mean with their bare hands? They just separate whatever they want to?
Yeah, whatever they want to. So they'll resell plastic bottles for 10 rupees a kilo, cloth for 5 rupees a kilo, coconuts for 20 rupees a kilo, whatever it is that they get.
So it's a lifestyle, in a sense.
Yeah, we have some people who are 3rd generation rag pickers.
And doing okay?
Okay. Not great.
It's not the worst job in the world.
So I think that they may be earning a degree of money because, garbage is not going anywhere. There's a degree of job security. The garbage is going to be there.
It's always more. So there's no recession in garbage. See,
there is no recession in garbage.
There are good points here.
But having said that, is that the life that you want to live?
Also, the other thing is the perversion that they have to actually see the lifestyle of the rich and the middle class around them. So is that also a problem, the disparity? Is that
Yeah, I always wonder why there is no perversion. They're just so...
Why there's no riot?
Yeah.
Why there's no revolution? Because I feel really bad. I don't know what to do.
They're very accepting of it. They feel that
karma.
That's their little piece. They're getting their little piece of that wealth by being able to clean through that
Nobody
garbage.
says that I want your wealth like it would be in another country. It's amazing how we don't have that.
Yeah, they don't have that.
And there's no bitterness when you talk to them like that?
No, not at all.
How easy X's life is as against mine? Same age, say two guys?
No, actually we had a sort of American journalist who wanted to do she's writing a book that sounds a little bit like Eat, Pray, Love to me.
What are you saying?
Yes, so we took her out to this garbage dump, and she wanted a woman who was exactly the same age as her, how her life as an American woman and this woman's life, in the garbage dump is so different. And that woman at age...
Wait till Trump takes over. She'll come running back.
Yeah. And so this woman had 2 kids, worked 20 years on the garbage dump already, and her kids are grown up. And this woman is that single, successful New Yorker. And I asked her, so why do you do this? What makes you work at the garbage dump? And she said, every drop builds an ocean. This is how I educated my kids and brought up my kids.
So there's dignity in labor, and they're quite proud of what they do. So that's not an issue as of now, at least. All right, let's go back down to the whole farmer situation. My worry is that on one side we feel that the government is always talking about farmers. Every government has to sprout about how they're going to do something for the farmers. How let's take a break, 1 minute silence for the farmers. There's so many chief ministers, relief funds. It just doesn't end. So the whole thing is for the guys like us. What is going wrong? What is going wrong between what the government wants to do? I'm sure some of them are sincere, and what really happens.
maybe...
See, the situation has not got better, Saumya.
It has not
You
gotten
guys are
better.
helping, you're doing what you can. But, you're looking at the large government as that one big body that can change things in society. And in so many years, in so many governments, and they're different parties, so it's no longer a party issue.
No.
Why are they not able to grasp this situation and say, okay, this is the way to go ahead? Or somehow make this a happier place? It just seems so negative with all these farmer suicides.
It is, and it's not only in Vidarbha. Everywhere I travel, I hear that there are farmer suicides. Last week, I was in Bundelkhand, and they said, you don't read about it in the papers, but there are farmers committing suicide here. And I said, oh my God, I thought it was only where I live. So wherever you go, you hear about it. And I think that farm policy, I wouldn't say has been completely wrong, but maybe farming just needs to be made more viable so that...
What does that mean? Specifically, what can they do? Like you're talking about loans that can't get paid back and all that. Should the government pay? Somehow have a fund which takes care of that? But there are too many farmers.
No, I think that first of all, there's dependence probably on cash crops, that farming practices need to be a little more sustainable, not like, just dependent on big dams and electricity and all of those things, but going back to food crops, going back to a little less of cash crops, just making farming more sustainable for every farmer. And also maybe we need a little bit of removing middlemen and making farming like prices more sustainable for both the consumer as well as the farmer. So we always crib about how food is so expensive, but farmers are not getting all of that money. They're only getting a tiny fraction of it because there's a lot of middlemen eating that cream on it, so to speak. And so we need farmers to be earning more money and us to be paying a little more as well.
Can we look at the other side and say, is farming overrated? After so many generations of farmers, is it something that maybe we don't need to be specialist farmers? Maybe they should start looking at other things as well. Is that an option, or is that being mean?
So we do need to get some people off farms. More than 2/3 of this country still depends on farming. But having said that, you and I do have to eat. We do talk about food security as a looming crisis. So somebody has to feed us, and it is going to be the farmer. I don't see who else it can be. So, I mean, we can't totally
if there are
give
less
up on
farmers, there'll be more to share, more to go around. I'm just asking,
yes,
as a layman again.
Yes,
is that a possibility mathematically? If we have less farmers, maybe they'll have a better life.
Yes, absolutely. You do need to get some people off farms and be doing more skilled jobs, and we need to create non-farm jobs in rural areas. Otherwise, what do people in villages do? So we really need to think about what we can do in a rural area other than just farming.
They can become VJs, actors, singers. These are unskilled professions. Just get into that quickly. Okay, I want to ask you a few lighter questions now, and before we close the show. Saumya, you're into this whole farmer thing from the ground. You're actually right there, ground zero, so to speak. Do you know the lyrics to Old MacDonald Had a Farm? And if so, could you sing one verse for us? Deathly silence.
Yeah, I think I may have totally forgotten Old MacDonald.
Voldemort moment.
Yeah.
Nobody speaks out of fear. I'll take you through it. It's Old MacDonald had a farm, E-A-E-A-O. All right. Go ahead.
And on that farm, he had some sheep.
Very good. Yeah. This is New Zealand. This doesn't happen here. We had 10 goats, and by the time the government released the goats, there were 4 left. That's how we figured it out. All right. So we've discussed the entire issue threadbare as much as we can from a layman's perspective. But what keeps you going? Because you're surrounded by all this, and there aren't full solutions. I know you've got these certain solutions. There's always hope. You've got these lovely stories of women who come from the dead, so to speak, and bring their families back. But by and large, it's still you're fighting terrible odds, and the statistics are still not good. And every year goes by, and it's not like the things are getting much better. What keeps you going?
I don't look at it as dark at all, because you don't live with statistics, you live with people. And I think people have so much sort of possibility in them, and nothing makes you happier than when they turn their life around. And I don't think I've done it. I think they've done it, and I'm just watching it.
Do you stay in touch with some of these girls, ladies rather?
Yes.
Once they've already reached a point where they don't need you in that sense, you still stay in touch?
Not everyone, but a lot of them do keep coming back to us, and nothing makes you happier than when they show you that little piece of gold that they bought, or like, oh, my child eats egg now, my child walks now, which they didn't earlier. Nothing makes you happier.
Wow, really? Very fulfilling life, unlike ours. My God, no point telling you what I do with my day. It involves a lot of scratching.
More productive than mine, I'm sure.
No, it's not. I've just been told don't use talcum powder. It's carcinogenic. We are so shallow. We only worry about ourselves.
Or bread, or tea.
Or bread, yeah. No,
or anything that you possibly
it's not
have.
about that. My point is that our lives are only us. It's another world. We've just shut everybody out. So that's it. The bread and the talcum powder affects only us. But obviously now you've got a parallel track going, and I suppose in one way or the other, you're the one with the richer spiritual heritage, so to speak, when we both meet our maker, if there is a heaven. which probably won't be. We'll run out of
we are
farming
not
land.
making our way there.
Yeah, we're not. You might.
No.
I'll be on the highway, somewhere in the middle. Saumya, let's talk a little bit about your personal life before we go. So, what do you do to relax and unwind? I mean, I wouldn't call it stressful, but so much. It's a lot to look at humanity from your perspective all the time and digest it. You know, there are good stories and bad stories, but it's a lot. I mean, it would wear me down very quickly.
It doesn't wear me down. There's nothing that energizes me more than just hanging out.
But there are also odds that you can't, overcome. Stories that sometimes people cannot be helped. So how do you deal with all that?
Yeah, that is hard sometimes when you can't. But then there's so many people who do, and then you think about those who do, and then those, because I think that that they're doing it. I don't feel that I'm doing it. They're doing it. And I'm just kind of watching them and in some way supporting them and feeling for them. That's all.
No, come on. I'm sure you're just trying to be modest, so we won't push it here. But obviously, people need help. My whole belief is there's this lovely play called Zoo Story by Edward Albee, where he talks about this one character who basically kills himself at the end of the play only because he can't find connections. Human connection. One human connection in his life would have kept him going.
That's it.
So sometimes I'm just thinking that it's very important the role you're playing, because you give them that connection, make their life meaningful, and then people find, everything else finds its way once the spirit rises. So in a sense, making that spirit rise is very important.
But they make my spirit rise as well.
You can say that, but we all know the role you're playing, and we thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit now, and a very awkward conversation, so I won't praise you more. Let's talk a little bit about your personal life outside this world. So what is a normal day for you? After all, you're an urban girl grown up in the city.
So,
how do you unwind? You listen to rock music? Do you play the guitar?
No, I love to read actually, because it's a great escape.
Who reads anymore? It's the internet generation.
Exactly.
The Kindle books are like 4 pages.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The
Yeah, so
Ramayana is
I'm
like 7 pages now.
I'm very old-fashioned because, my father moved around a lot when we were kids, and I was often sort of friendless in
You're
some
like a
new
4G
place.
kid almost.
Exactly.
Taking in all the different zones.
I've been to 9 schools.
What are you saying?
Yes.
And without failing ever?
Ever.
Most of my friends went to 9 schools, duffers, absolute dumbos.
Yeah, so I went to 9 schools and I think 4 different colleges in different cities. So
which were the best? Which were the 4 cities for college?
I went to Delhi, then Bombay, then I was in the US. So 3 cities.
Oh, wow. So which was the favorite college?
Well, I actually did my undergraduate education in Delhi, so I did my BA there.
Where?
Lady Shri Ram.
Oh, I love Lady Shri Ram. Do you have the Dhobi story?
No.
Lady Shri Ram is the one with the hostel,
Yeah.
and the Dhobi is the only male to enter the female.
Yes, that's it.
Man, I covered that story. There was a heartbreaking story. We met him, and he was very embarrassed. But the truth is, he's the only male to enter the female
inside.
area.
Yeah.
And so he's like a godlike figure for all the boys outside there. It's amazing.
And there was all these stories about how boys would be at the gate, except I never saw them.
No, apparently they were, but and they would go through him for advice and all that.
Yeah, clearly they were just meeting him.
Well, you know how it is in Delhi, yaar. Things are a little different. And in Mumbai?
I was at Sophia for a year.
Oh, that's my mother and my wife's college.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And now I teach journalism there.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had another embarrassing moment in Sophia College where I bumped into one of the feminist teachers who I won't name, and we were shooting for MTV, and I was asking silly questions of the girls, and she suddenly started talking about capitalism and harmfulness of tobacco and how America has destroyed the world. She's very leftist, this lady. And I was caught in the middle of all that because we had MTV written everywhere. We can't be more capitalist and shallow than
that.
MTV, and we were representing that part of America. It was very embarrassing. Ran as fast as we could. All right. And in the US, where did you study?
In Chicago at Northwestern University.
Wow, that's pretty big.
No, it's
And then you
fine.
didn't want to stay back in the States?
I stayed for a while. I
Couldn't
worked
find
at
any
Bloomberg.
slums there? They've got ghettos. You could have healed the people there. They've got their own problems.
Yeah, and I really feel like ghettos in India, like the slums in India and the youth culture there is so much like ghettos in the US.
Is it?
Yes, very much. You still have like the big tattoos on
There's
people's
some
hands.
aggression in the ghettos there that you get also, no?
But there is
From
that-
the way they push themselves out almost. You get that here?
Yeah, you see, I mean, not violence, but
No, it's not a violent
Yeah.
aggression. It's just like pushing the chest out and walking. It's like a chip on the shoulder thing.
Yeah, like you see how popular gyms are in slums in Bombay.
Correct. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My wife actually did a whole photo thing on that.
Yeah, hair gel. You literally will not see a guy from a slum
Salman's
without
pictures everywhere for some reason. Yeah.
That blue bracelet.
Oops, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
You should write a book on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. All the silver chains with those, numbers on them and
The
all
bling,
of that.
they get the bling. They totally get the bling. They have a sense of identity.
Low-hanging jeans.
And how would you parallel that with the US?
Very much like ghettos in the US.
The tattoos, they wear
Yes.
these...
the tattoos, the dancing.
the low-hanging pants, what do
the
they call them?
low-hanging
The
jeans.
non-waist pants.
Yes. Okay,
Why would men wear those pants? You have no shape. You look like an albatross. I don't understand why. Do you think it's an attractive thing?
Ajay, all the dancing, they are into, we
Yeah.
get all these kids from the slums who are like into b-boying and all these things that make me feel so old because I have no
Are they
idea
good?
what they are. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're graffiti artists.
And this is all from films. Where have they picked up all these influences?
And they're watching films on mobile phones.
No, correct. No, it's
So
all changed.
it's not even a film. It could be
So
something
not
on
doing so
YouTube.
badly. Achhe din to hai. You better call the Pradhan Mantri and tell him. Not so bad, at least urban India. But that's a fascinating idea. Looking at the two parallel universes of the have-nots of two societies, first world and we are not third world anymore. I would say second world. Yeah, but very similar, is it? And
Absolutely.
And like pushing themselves, there's a certain positive, energy about them, pushing themselves up the ladder, so to speak.
Yeah, like we always employ our employees from slums, and the first thing when they get their salary, they'll buy a smartphone, they'll get their hair straightened. So all the women we have like expensive straightened hair and like...
Why do they have to straighten the hair? What's with that story? They just feel straight
spend
hair.
on themselves.
Is a sense of glamour.
Absolutely. Spend something on themselves. Splurge. And their aspirations are like always outsized compared to maybe their education. So they all want to like be an interior designer,
Excellent.
a fashion designer.
That's superb. Does this ever happen? That would be a great story.
Yeah.
If one of them actually becomes a successful interior decorator from nowhere.
So they have this great sense of like what I'm doing is beneath me if I'm working here in the slums. What I actually want to do is to be a dancer, or I actually want to be a graphic designer. And one of our guys, he has an online shoe sale business.
Doing well?
Yeah, it's doing okay.
Sells only 1 foot, left foot or right?
Once a month he gets orders, but it's called some Maple Shoes or some very westernized name like that.
So
Yeah.
these are the stories we should promote, man. They're very interesting.
Yeah.
One final question. Have you seen Slumdog Millionaire?
I have.
And what were your thoughts?
I remember one of the first time I went to Dharavi, I actually walked on that water pipeline that they show in
That to everyone,
Slumdog
come on.
Millionaire.
Yeah,
and we had people who lived on that water pipeline. Now they've got resettled, but they lived on that cylindrical
It's
water
an
pipeline.
iconic part of that place. You can't... Everybody has to know that. I think everyone shot something there.
But do you know, post that movie, that those people were resettled. They don't live there anymore.
But resettle as in the government decided to push them so they look better.
They live in a pakka house now. They don't live on that anymore. And they used to live on that cylindrical pipeline.
What have you done? You've actually told people in Mumbai that the pipeline area is free for squatters within
not
5
free.
minutes.
Yeah, it's not free.
You have to pay rent.
They pay 2,000 rupees rent for that house.
$2,000 a month for the pipe.
Yes.
Oh man, I tell you, we're not second world, we are first world. Our pipes are more expensive than their bloody flats in New York.
I don't know who
about?
they were paying that rent to, but they were paying all right.
It doesn't matter who they're paying the rent to as long as you're paying the rent. We have many parallel governments, as you know better than me. All right, Saumya, it's been wonderful talking to you. I hope I've covered as many things as I could. I think you're doing a wonderful job and you don't need me to endorse it. And say hello to your dad.
Thank you.
And do the good work that keeps India flying. Because
Thank
somebody
you so
has
much,
to do
Cyrus.
it. All right, but before we let you go, we're doing the AMA. Somebody's going to come in here and chat with us about all kinds of things. Just 5 minutes. Stay where you are. If you're in a slum somewhere in Mumbai and you need help, reach out. Saumya will come. Saumya, I'm putting it all on you, huh? Yeah, I made you a superhero. There you go. Pipeline 5 o'clock every Friday. That's the adda.
There's nobody there now.
No, nobody. You'll have to pay $2,000 just to have consultation.
Yeah.
If you have any questions for Cyrus, write to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Or you can send an email to whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
All right, here with the one and only Amit Doshi. His NGO is Amit Doshi. He just cares about himself. And that's the way it should be, because we're both Mulbai Hill boys.
Yes, it is.
Let's balance her out now. She's the saint. We need some sinners.
I am absolutely not.
And look at the sinner. He's playing he's with the stock market on the other phone.
I'm turning off the notification
Sell,
thing.
he says to his broker. Go on.
Like I have anything to sell. All right.
You have me.
All right. So here is the first question I have. What can I learn right now that will be helpful for the rest of my life?
Saumya, you answer this. Because see, you are a motivator. I just bring them down. Come on, say the right
tips
thing.
you were talking about? Sell. I could do with some of those.
No, so he wants a skill that will help him for the rest of his life. What would you suggest?
Are you serious?
Serious? These are serious questions.
It's a question.
And this is not, again, about where the person comes from. Is there a skill you can think top of your head? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Since you don't want to answer. Shall I?
Please.
I think the most important thing is to smile.
Okay.
And you must smile from both sides of your mouth. I've noticed that people do this half grin because they don't really want to smile, and that's crap. But when they smile genuinely, I honestly feel you disarm people very quickly if you can smile properly. And most people don't get it.
And you can get away with anything.
You can get away with anything. And it breaches that divide between the people, whoever they are.
Yeah, I thought we'd get like a sarcastic or funny answer to this, but that actually makes a lot of sense, right?
I'm a student of psychology.
That's true,
I have
yeah.
so much time at home doing nothing. I stare at people.
Yeah.
And I notice when they smile at each other, genuinely, the connection is strong.
No, and it breaks all kinds of tension and stuff like that. I mean, like any kind of disagreement can pretty much be more or less kind of pushed away with like, just a good-hearted kind of,
After the scandal, Bill Clinton smiled at Hillary and hence she took him back. You've got to get it right. You get the smile right and you're forgiven anything. It happens all over the world.
Yeah.
Donald Trump smiled at the American people. Genuine smile. They voted him.
This show turned into Oprah.
It is.
Yes.
And I'm 2 kilos heavier than her right now. And that's saying something.
Okay. The second question I have...
By the way, Saumya's not contributed to this. Let's give her a chance.
She agrees to the smile thing.
No, I totally agree with your smile thing.
The smile thing is the most gay answer in the history of podcasting.
I know, but it's like, it's a
truth.
Yeah, it is the truth.
It's a truth.
It is.
Travel the world and you'll see, you'll depend on the smile when language is an issue.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I've been in Scandinavian countries where somebody doesn't respond properly. Give a good smile and you're okay. Of course, smile and a wink means something else, so be careful. I remember in an Arab country, I spent 10 days extra there.
For winking?
Yeah.
Just 10?
Yeah. But they put me in a lovely bath, one of those bubble baths. For a long time.
All right.
And then 7 men played with me. Well, they thought I was an instrument. The thing is, I started enjoying it when they threw me out. Anyway, back to you.
Okay.
Saumya has lost interest completely. She's like,
I
want
totally
to go back to the slum and save real people.
No, I totally agree with you
Idiots.
on a smile, especially because, in our country, so many different languages, and if you just smile, that kind of breaks down everything.
Yeah,
And people no more care whether you're speaking in Tamil or like Bengali or something, but you're smiling, so somewhere you're communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah. It just does, right? It makes
What if you have
easy.
no teeth? What if you're like really
That
old?
makes your smile even better, right?
But
Because
that's a
it makes the
scary
other
smile.
person smile and
That's
laugh.
like a predator. You look like an old panther or
Without
something.
your teeth, you look like a predator?
Yeah, because
What are you going to cut with, man? How are you going to chew?
But an old predator.
Old predators? All right, cool.
An old predator is still a predator. He just can't get food.
He can't get food.
Then he
Yeah, so
becomes a
old
man-eater
predator is a
and starts
starving predator.
eating people. Then Saumya comes into the whole
No,
thing.
I think a toothless smile is just even more like cute and disarming.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
She likes old people. That's her next NGO.
Toothless old people.
Toothless old people.
There are many. Coming soon. Next.
All right, so the next question I have is that recently there was a study done which found E. coli in 92% of the ice found in Bombay roads.
Who? How? What? These are all sample studies.
Yeah.
How can you tell me the whole every single road?
They took 942 samples and there were 880 samples. 880 of them were infected
Okay.
with E. coli.
Saumya, help.
What are your thoughts?
Do they scare us with this information from time to time? I don't know. I can't tell.
They don't. I think if you, what did they not find E. coli in? They found like carcinogens in bread and
Yeah.
like all kinds of things in vegetables and Coke and water, and so I think if you were to be scared, if you were to be fearful, you'd find something in everything.
And if you take away, Amit, and I'm asking you this personally, you take away bread,
Right.
You take away Coke,
Right.
What will the Jain community eat? As Jain, I'm asking you.
That's a very tough question. If you take away bread and you take away Coke, I think we
Papad.
would be stuffed with patra.
no,
Tihar-
papad ki sabzi.
papad.
Tihar jail will collapse. Bread and water is the normal diet. Tuesday, Thursdays.
Really?
Yeah. So I
That's
think
like
bread and water?
bread and water is punishment diet, right?
it's no longer that. It was then my time. It's a long story. But ask the policeman's
We
daughter.
want to
Ask the
know
police-
about your time there. I clearly did not spend any time
before your
there.
dad's time. My time is just before partition.
No, bread and water is supposedly punishment food. You do it so that it forms a knot in the stomach so it makes the person really uncomfortable.
Are you serious? I
Yeah,
thought it was
it's a
slave
punishment.
diet.
No, it's a
for slaves in
punishment food.
medieval Europe and all that.
It's punishment food.
It's punishment.
Yeah, making somebody eat bread and water. Basically, what happens is the bread and water combine in the stomach and form like a knot. It forms like a
Not fun.
this.
And then what happens?
It becomes very difficult to pass and it causes a lot of pain.
Oh, so you can't do the loo.
Yeah, so it's a punishment food. It's not like
Thank you. I know I'm taking my wife tonight. Excelente. God bless you, young man.
all right. That's
How do
all
you know this?
I read it in a book where.
What are you doing with your life? Look at what she's doing with her life.
Well, yeah, she's doing important
She's going from
stuff. I'm
slums
reading
to
about bread
farms.
and water.
And you and your bread
And
and
he's
water.
saving us from E. coli to start
Yeah.
with.
And first,
Which is really big.
And Saumya is it E. coli, E. coli.
I have no idea.
They should be clear about these things.
I think
I didn't know it
it's
was
E. coli.
Zuckerberg. I've been saying Zuckerberg for the last 5 years. The other day, I finally saw an interview. The guy says, I'm Mark Zuckerberg.
Because there are Zuckerbergs and there are Zuckerbergs also.
Somebody
There are
should
both.
tell us. We're Indian.
Yeah.
We don't say Agarwal and Agrawal. We know what it is.
No, but no,
Simple.
why? There are Agarwals and there are Agrawals.
I know that, but I'm just saying we know that. So they should help us from their side.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Zucker or Zucker?
Zucker,
Don't
Zucker.
try and rhyme that.
Zucker. Zucker.
Saumya, you've been delightful. Thank you for being
Thank
here with
you.
us.
Thank you so
and
much.
Helping our society. So somebody actually is.
Yeah.
Now let's go back and find some E. coli.
Okay.
E. coli?
E. coli.
E. coli.
E. coli.
Okay, catch us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Beyond Pod, any of the podcasting apps. Please, we beg you, we need you. If you have any questions, write to us online and you can mail us as well. We will answer. We have a doctor in the house called me.
And that's what Cyrus says.
All right, time to look at the Podcast, Podcast. It's, we have to push the pun from time to time because it's an audio medium. We can't write it for you. Hosted by the DailyPow.com's Purva Mehra, Pranoti Datta and Amit Gurbaksani. The Podcast is your fortnightly lowdown on Mumbai's food and culture scenes. Plus, if you pay them money, they'll talk about your family and other animals.
Hey man, just help me out, man. I need some podcast, man. I haven't had a fix in a week. Just need some.
Don't you worry about it. I got podcast galore for you, man. Just go to ivmpodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna check it out.